welcome back to another episode of A Pinch of Everything. And today we are going to just basically geek out and talk about the 12 things we learn from reading and watching Isekais. Yes, my name is Elizabeth from Psychology for Geeks. And with me, as always, is my baby bro, David.
Hey, what's up?
So I just went on this like binge reading thing for a few months and just reading a whole bunch of like isekai manhwas. So I was like, yo, we need to make an episode about this because some things are kind of like ridiculous tropes that each one of them has. I want to talk about it. I don't know, I just wanted to geek out with my brother, so we're just making this episode, so hopefully you enjoy it as well.
At a certain point, tropes start becoming very strange. One of them sets like a new show starts setting like brand new tropes. People that start copying them in other not genres, but in other shows, and then they start mutating and changing to the point where it's not necessarily the same thing that it was originally. And if you come back with that original trope in your show or in your like manga or what have you, it becomes new again. At this point, we're gonna talk about those mutated tropes.
Are they really mutated?
Oh yeah, they are
they?
absolutely mutated.
we have a list here that obviously we had to create. I had to erase one of the points in the list because I kind of forgot why I wrote it. But we have a list, so we're just gonna go through each one of the things. They are okay. So just to explain, I guess a little bit more. Can you explain? I feel like you would know better, or like give it a better explanation because I'm just gonna ramble on. Like, can you explain to someone who doesn't know what an isekai is? Like, what an isekai is?
Well, depending on their age, the explanation changes. Let's say it's someone my age, someone who's basically dabbled in the same
How
media.
old are you?
26. I'm ancient and dying of old. Anyways, someone around my age would probably know some of the cartoons that I used to watch as a kid. So the best way to explain this as to what an isekai is, I'll just say, remember Digimon? It's the same thing, except in this other isekais, or like in the ones that are now predominant in the genre, they reincarnate or come back in somebody else's body.
Would you consider Yu-Gi-Oh to be an isekai?
No, but it does have an isekai arc in it. That's the capsule monster one.
Oh, it's the one I haven't seen, so okay.
Fake fan!
Yeah, so basically an isekai is just like a story in which a person is transported from their like home world into another world. Okay, let's talk about Truck-kun because Truck-kun, yeah, because it's hilarious. And I wanted to read the thing before this too late. Okay, so basically there is because isekais, like David was saying, there are tropes that just sort of like become tropes, after a while. Like everybody's doing them, and then after a while they just kind of get old, so that people sort of reinvent it or like twist it a little bit. But the main way that people usually, because for some isekais, the person, like David said, they are reincarnated, so they kind of have to die in their own world, and most of the time they just get run over by a truck. And so somebody, I don't know who it is, can you Google it real fast, David? We'll come back to the name of the creator when David figures it out. So basically this, I think it's just like a one-shot like manga where they explain how there is this like secret organization that their main job is just to isekai people to other worlds, to like literally run people over and send them to another world, because like the bumper of the truck has like this magical something like in the front that would like transport them to another world. So Truck-kun has become a, like, I guess he went from a meme to like an actual manga, from what I understand. I did want to read it before, but it's an ongoing one. I thought it was a one shot.
This could be like somebody else's taking over the one shot, but I am not too sure because limited time.
So it's by Bottle Comics, and the manga is called Isekai Transporter. There's 17 chapters. It seems like there's 17 chapters. So I totally lie. There's a little bit more than that, but it kind of explains on how like isekais kind of got created. Um, so yeah, David, did you want to just like jump in into some of the points of isekais, like some of the things that we learn from watching and slash reading isekais?
You're right.
Take the hint. That was meant for you to like say the first thing that you learn from watching isekais. Come on, bro.
I can't read that. What does it say?
Are you just I'm just gonna take over the podcast and do it myself. David doesn't want to participate today.
What I learned from an isekai is that you have to either be born in money or wed into money.
Well, yes, I agree. So either you have to marry someone rich, especially if you are female, you have to marry someone rich, or you have to become rich. And usually the becoming rich part is relatively easy for some reason. So, yeah, no worries if you ever get isekai to a different dimension, a different planet, or whatever. No worries, you'll be rich. Either born rich, will marry rich, or become rich.
That's right. Curse those pathetic people with the damnation of capitalism.
No, you know what that reminds me of? You know that, have you seen the meme? It's from The Emperor's New Groove when Isma's like, what is it that you needed again? And then like the farmer's like, oh, we need food. And then he's like, ha, you should have thought about that before you became peasants. Like, that's basically isekais. They're like, oh, you're poor. Oh, you should have thought about that before. That's one of my favorite memes. So, David, don't be a peasant and tell us the second thing you learned about isekais.
The second thing that I learned is that you must have an inexplicable knowledge in very, very niche things that can and will be applied to this world to either become more powerful or to just make a lot of money. See point A.
Well, okay, yes. So in this one, a lot of the times, people, for some reason, when people get isekai to another world, it's more like a medieval vibe. Like it's always like some sort of like medieval world. Sometimes there's magic in it, which is makes it a little bit different than our world. But most of the time, it is a very wait. How do you say like they don't have a lot of technology, I guess, or knowledge is kind of scarce in some areas. So if you ever want to be isekai, you best start making like like getting into hobbies like learning how to make soap from scratch or learning what is it that thing that you said earlier, like how to make Roman concrete or something.
Yeah, how to make Roman concrete to make better buildings to make a house in an isekai world. Or study the Japanese way of making a house where you cut wood in a certain way to just fit it together like a jigsaw puzzle. Apparently, every single Japanese citizen knows that technique to the point where every isekai main character just has that in their back pocket.
You know that? Well, have you ever seen what's the one? Uh, Dr. Stone.
I haven't caught up or seen any of the recent parts.
Oh, okay, well, I think I've only seen the first season. But anyway, point being is that for those of you you haven't seen or don't know anything about Dr. Stone, it's basically the story of this person or this teenager who was like really into science. Like he loved science, so he learned everything he could about science, how to make anything from scratch, and that actually came in handy because there was this sort of like apocalyptic event that happened that turned everyone into stone, and somehow like millions of years later, like the earth went back to sort of like its primitive stage, and yeah, so like he kind of broke out of the stone, and he had to use all the knowledge that he learned, like all the science knowledge. Is actually really cool. especially because I don't know anything about science. But that made me realize that I would not be able to survive. Like, you know that show Survivor or whatever it's called, where they dump you in the middle of nowhere in the forest and you have to survive with like a little tiny knife. Like, I wouldn't be able to do that. I don't even know how to start a fire without like a fire starter thingy.
No, even with a fire starter set, I'm pretty sure you don't know how to start a fire because you
That's
have
what I
to
just
read the
said.
instructions. Okay.
That's what I just said. Like, I don't know how to start a fire. I don't know. Like, okay, I've been camping a couple of times, but most of the time I was kind of like, somebody else do this. And most of the time I went with like a lot of friends who were like, yes, fire. I will make fire. I shall make fire. So I was kind of like, I don't even know how to set up a tent, bro. I think last time we went, you
It's
did
not
it.
that hard. Just put the sticks in the sticks and then make the thing.
Okay, you make it sound easy, but this one time I went to Hawaii to visit a friend, and she was on this mission to like to visit every single island in Hawaii, and we ended up going to, oh no, Kauai, I think. Yeah, we went to Kauai, and we were gonna like what we did. We took a tent with us and we camped at the beach, but it was so windy when we went. It was like really really windy, so we couldn't make the little sticks stay on the floor, and we had to go ask this guy, and we were like, excuse us, can you like help us because we know nothing. And then he was like super nice. He was like there with his whole family, and he said like, yeah, somebody else had to help me, and apparently you need to take a hammer with you to hammer in the stakes because that's a lot easier or something. I But if he's making these signs where like it's a no brainer, but like shut up. It's supposed to like just go in. Like, you're not supposed to need a hammer.
That's not how that works. Not even close.
Anyway, so he hammered them in, and he was super nice, and it worked. Point being, I would not survive in one of those things, and if there was ever like an apocalypse or something, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be like one of those first like people to like die, because like I don't know how to like. Did you know like about medications? Like, how do you like?
Oh no, I'll just survive for a day because I know how to start a fire and make a tent. The next day I'll just like die of starvation or gingivitis.
Like, knowing like what to eat and what not to eat in the forest, like, yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, anyway, so yes, if you think that potentially you could get isekai to another world, start learning how to do stuff from scratch, because that will help you make it big in your next reincarnated life, most likely.
And that leads us to another point that we
Are
have.
you doing this one?
Somehow have a cheat skill. Now, this is actually one of those things where it first started like in one anime and then just kind of devolved somewhere else. And they tried to interpret that in the best way that they could. But, like, the best way was just actually the most laziest path possible. Because some anime or some isekais are like, oh, since you died and we need you in this world, we will give you a wish. However, that wish has stipulations and rules to it. So the character had to be clever. He had to actually think about what he wanted to get in order to be able to live in the other world, and then, you start the story. But nowadays, that just devolved to the trope of, hey, when you get isekai'd, you automatically get a cheat skill. Which is total BS because it just makes the rest of the story, like, super easy to just live through.
Are you talking about like how because of that cheat skill, usually the main character is like super OP? Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna go with the other one. Um, yeah. So like that's a thing too. Like if you want to, like if you want to become rich, or if you want to like do some really cool stuff in the next life, you have to be OP in some way. Either you have to have like a cheat skill, like David was saying, like where you're like super good at doing magic or doing magical things, or like you're super strong, or like you're super smart. Like you have to be better than everyone else in the whole world at doing something, and that is how you're gonna become rich, and everybody's gonna love you. That's the only way, you guys. There is no other way. If you get isekai, that has to be that thing. You have to be OP in something. Most of the time, I feel like their cheat skill. Oh, you know what? Because I read a bunch of manhwas. We don't read the same ones. I am pretty sure because mine are usually more romantic and historical than the ones David tends to read. I actually don't really know what you tend to read.
More action adventure fantasy with a bit of shonen or seinen.
What's seinen?
Seinen?
Oh,
I
what
don't
is
know how
it?
to say it. It's just shonen, but like more mature for like teenagers rather than kids. That's
Like
it.
more guts and gore and whatever.
Yeah, pretty much. Like instead of like a 13 and under, instead of 13 and under, it's for an older audience, so teenagers and adults.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. So a lot of the
Seinen.
manhwas that I read, there's like so many that you can read online. So there's like webtoons. I'm just gonna be like a walking advertisement. So you can go to webtoons, or you can go to like. Why is the only thing I can only think of webtoons? Sorry. But there's like other like apps out there. I think I use Tapas too, and they have like the translated versions. Sometimes you do have to wait, or like it's a paid service that you have to do in order to access the later chapters. So some of them you can choose read one chapter a day, instead of paying.
Viz Media.
Oh, Viz Media is another one. Well, that's more manga. Manga. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. No, Viz Media. Do they also do manhwa or is it manga?
Viz Media is a company that is a publishing company, right? So anything that they publish, they can put into their app and or website, and they sell it on their digital like comic books, essentially. But again, under the umbrella of the company.
I'm a little biased. I tend to really like. I have nothing against mangas, but I really like manhwas because they're very colorful. And I feel for some reason they're a lot simpler and they have a lot more detail. They just colored because they're digital drawings or whatever. So I really like them. Anyway, so I like I said earlier, I just binge read a whole bunch of those for like the past like 6 months or something like that. And most of the time, when somebody got isekai'd, they were like isekai'd into a world of like a book that they read or that they wrote. Yeah, or a video game. Yeah. I don't really like the video games one all that much.
Because you're lame and boring, and you can't think beyond little book.
No, I like books. Shut up. I'm playing video games now.
The only book that is a good book is a manga book. Okay,
Manhwas are good too.
that's debatable.
David, you read them all the time. Shut up.
I
Anyway,
read the good ones. Okay, I don't know what you're up to.
anyway, so that would be like the OP skill or like the cheat skill of that person because they know the end. Most of the time they know like where the story goes or who's the main character or who's like some secret in the book or whatever. So they have that knowledge. Yeah, so you have to be OP in some way. That was the longest tangent, wasn't it? Welcome to a podcast that is run by two people with ADHD brains.
And one of them just can't shut up. Guess who it is?
I like talking. Shut up. Wait. I want to do the next one. We only have one microphone and we just have to like push it back and forth in between us. Anyway, so the next thing that we learn from reading or watching is manhwas is isekais is that if you have a miserable life right now. Wait, no, I don't know how to say it. Is it okay? Correct me in this one. I want to say that if you are miserable in your current life and everything is sort of going wrong, you have 100% chance of being isekai to another world.
Yeah, pretty much. Once you get to the other world, somehow everything is better. And if it's not better, you can actually do something about it. Unlike how you couldn't do anything about it in this world.
I mean, you could have done something about it in this world, but they make it seem like you can't.
But you're too much of a baby and you crumble very easily under societal pressure.
Because you don't have that OP skill or the cheat skill. That's why.
The cheat skill to make bread better.
Or like using salt on like soup to make it tasty, or just taking a bath daily. Like that's your skill, that's your OP. If you do that, you make so much money in another world. No, oh wait, no. Hold on. I think it could also be the people that get isekai 100% of the time live a miserable life.
And are extraordinary in one way, shape, or form. Even if that one way, shape, or form looks really, really dumb to begin with and to end with.
Well, no, I think they're whatever they're good at is not. Society doesn't care about that, or they get made fun of for being really good at that skill. Oh, and another one is not only do you have to be OP, you also have to be very good looking.
No, you'll be born good looking, so you don't have to worry about that. Unless you're like isekai into a game where you can model the character and then you make a joke ugly character, then you have an entire arc of making yourself more beautiful so that you can, look very attractive. Just in general.
But even in those situations, even if you're kind of like, average looking, you're still really funny. Like, you're really funny, so, everyone digs that. Want to be isekai'd to another world?
I live in the U.S. I'm a migrant. What do you think?
It's like real life isekai. Immigrating to another country.
No. When you get isekai'd, you have a high percentage of having a better life. We should have stayed in Mexico. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know about that.
With all the shenanigans that's happening right now, man.
The shenanigans happening everywhere, bro.
That's right. Get off the planet as soon as you can. The next cab ride to the moon, take it.
Okay, so that sounds like David would like to be isekai to another world. Would you like to, what kind of world would you like to be isekai to? One with magic or just like a regular world like our own, but just set back in the day?
Medieval magic. Because, I don't know what it is about that, but that's the type of genre that I end up being more attracted to. Is it the mystery of magic or the ability, the fact that you're able to train yourself to have, insane abilities or something like that? I think that's something that I myself personally enjoy. So what if I had magic? What if I had, some crazy powers that I could learn and figure out and kind of change more of discover. I think the discovery part. The discovery of the world and maybe a little bit of its lore or something like that. That is what intrigues me. What about you?
I've always loved magic, and this is probably going to date. Stop it. Wait. Yeah, I lost my train of thought because of you. Stop singing. Wait, what was it saying?
This will never make it.
I can't remember what I was saying. Yes, I love magic, so this is probably going to, I guess, date me or whatever. I don't know. I don't care.
You're old.
Yes, I am old, but really, I mean, magic, like making really cool things, like appear out of nowhere, or like teleporting to different places, like that would be so cool. But honestly, I just want magic to make so that I don't have to do chores or clean my house. Like that would be the best. Like that scene in the what's that movie? The Sword in the Stone, where Merlin is just washing all the dishes and it's making them dance and he's cleaning. That's the kind of magic that I want. I mean it will be cool for me to learn all kinds of other kind of magic, but that's the bare minimum that I would require in order to be completely happy in an isekai world.
I just realized that the reason why I want to discover magic is so that I can have some sort of pocket dimension home, so I can travel wherever I want and still be in my house.
Oh, that's a good idea. You can just wait.
You would never have to worry about sleeping somewhere or like having food because it's a pocket dimension home, you know?
But did you ever watch Fantastic Beast? No, you didn't
No, no,
know.
no.
Okay.
I stopped Harry Potter after it ended because that's when everybody should have stopped.
Anyway, so Fantastic Beast kind of has that premise where like he carries like a suitcase that you can like literally like go down the stairs and it's like this huge world. Like that would be amazing. Like if you just carry like a little bag with you and then like you step inside it and then like that's your home and then you can just chill and come out whenever you need groceries or something.
Yeah, basically something like that. Magic.
That's
Such a mystery.
that's kind of like the what is it like what every introvert will like absolutely love because you know when you're done with the party just climb into your little bag and you're done, bye, you know. That's kind of like the introverts like, you know, magical thing. Words I cannot today. Wait, I feel like we skipped some of these things.
So just fucking read it as if it's
uh Oh, it's okay. Here's the other one. So we were talking about like what kind of world we will want to be isekai. Also, if you would like to be isekai, like tell us where you would like to be isekai. Like write it in the comments. We would like to know. Like, would you want to be isekai to a place that has a lot of magic that you have for you to learn, or something that's kind of like just like medieval Europe, or yeah, I don't know. For some reason, a lot of the people get isekai into like medieval Europe.
because we have a lot of records from like the Roman Empire. Well, not just the Roman Empire. It's the fact that Europe has like the most amount of influence all over the world. So they always have like their advertisements, their what's it called? What's the political campaigns to make themselves look good?
I don't know. My brain's not thinking of words right now.
You're the smart one.
Campaigns. You just said it like a campaign.
Nah, this is there's a specific name for it, but I can't think of it right now. Point being, it basically advertises itself as being like this really cool place with a lot of history, yada yada yada. So every time anyone makes like a story about like going back in the day, it's always medieval Europe, despite the fact that medieval anywhere else would be just as interesting, i.e., Vinland Saga.
Oh yeah. Well, Vinland Saga's Europe, bro.
Yeah, but it's more of the Norse part of Europe, not just like the English part of Europe, which is everywhere in when you think medieval.
Well, actually, yes. I didn't think about it because my brain's not functioning right now. But yes, that's a good point. I think we know. I don't know if this is just like American education system, probably. Um, but there we have so much more information about the history of Europe, but we don't have a lot of information about like the history of like other places, what it was like to be in like the medieval like era of like other places.
Because most of those places got colonized and their history erased.
Yes, that is a sad thing, but yeah, it's true. And now I guess it makes more sense why why everybody just gets isekai to a medieval looking world, medieval Europe looking world.
That's very depressing.
Yeah, like I'm sad now. I'm like, I don't want to continue anymore. Just sad. Everybody could colonize. Like, yeah, I think like did we talk about this? Where I was like, we were talking about like the Library of Alexandria, and I was like, just so sad. Every time I like watch a YouTube video or like a podcast and they're talking about how the Library of Alexandria got burned down, I'm like, no, the books, the knowledge, everything that got lost. Why? I think I just have a really high pitched voice when I get excited or sad.
You're also very close to the mic. And your mouth is like almost eating the mic.
I am supposed to eat the mic. Well, you always complain how I'm not loud enough, and when I'm loud, you're like, you're too loud, stop it. I don't know where we left off. We like got sidetracked.
It'll be Europe.
Yeah. So sadness. Medieval Europe, all the history got erased from other countries, so we don't have a lot of information.
Darkness imprisoning me. All that I see, absolute terror.
Please tell me that's not a One Piece reference.
No, it's One by Metallica. What's wrong with you?
I don't really listen to Metallica. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So sometimes it mm, would you say like about 50% of the time or so, when you get isekai, you have like, I don't know, a 50-50 chance of getting isekai into like another world as a baby, or like just as a younger person.
Yo, most of the time they just take over somebody else's body, or they find a way to say, like, oh, I took over this person's body, but it kind of looks like mine, so that's pretty cool.
Really, well, a lot of the ones that I read, they didn't, like, they look completely different than what they looked like, again, because he was like medieval Europe kind of.
Yeah, but you also have to keep in mind, I've read more of the manga part of the isekai genre, and you've read more of the manhwa romance part of the isekai genre,
Very true, very true. um yeah.
also known as the worst part of the isekai genre.
It's not, it's good, go and read it.
Listen, if it's not what I like, it's terrible. It's just simple as that.
Anyway, back to my point. So once you, I mean, mentally, you are like, say you're 30, right? And then Truck Kun comes in and bumps you and is like magically isekais you to a different world where you're like a baby. Then you would think like your 30-year-old self, but like, have the capabilities of, like, the physical capabilities of a baby. But if you get isekai into like just someone younger or like somebody else's body, you still have like your adult mind, and have to either force yourself to act like a child for like the first, what would you say, like 10 chapters of whatever it is that you're reading, and then after that you'll completely forget that you're older, like you just act and think like a child.
No, yeah, there are a lot of stories where it's like a 30, 40, 50 basically old man going into this other world and becoming like super young again, and immediately they become childlike with all the shenanigans that comes with being a complete kid. What upsets me about this trope is that they still can pull their maturity out of nowhere, and they also have like the ability to kind of like still pretend to be a kid but be completely mature. And I'm like, they're not doing it in a way where it's satisfying, and that kind of sucks.
Well, but that's only for like the first few chapters, or whenever you need the story to move along, or you need to like know a specific skill in order to like make that money, or like become an OP character. Like otherwise you'll completely like become a child if you were supposed to be a child, or like younger than, your actual age, which kind of leads me to the other one. You like forget like your whole family and your friends, like maybe for like the first few, like again, like the first 2 or 3 chapters. For the most of the ones that I read, for like the first 3 chapters, they were like, oh no, I can never go back to my home because I got isekai to this place and I have no idea where it is or how to get back. Oh no, and actually I kind of died in the other world, so I can't go back. And then like, oh, I miss my parents, and then after that completely forget, and parents and like other world never brought up again.
There would also be times where the main character will make it a point to want to return somehow, but never really do anything about it. And it isn't until they want to further the plot that the main character all of a sudden wants to return home for whatever reason. And this is one of the last tropes that we could think of. Mainly me, because I'm just this cool. Last but not least is the whole you better have an elastic butthole, because the amount of shit you're about to pull out of there and bring up as a key plot point is going to be staggering. You're going to have the ability to just ass pull a MacGuffin every other arc, or just somehow remember that you've already ass pulled a MacGuffin and now it's useful.
Yeah. I blanked. I couldn't say anything else. But yeah, I mean, I think that last one is basically everything else that we said, because most of the time things don't really get mentioned like ever, unless it's like relevant to like the plot. Um and that's kind of annoying. And like there are a lot of like isekais that I started watching primarily like on Crunchyroll, and I was kind of like, oh, bro, like I just kind of had them in the background because I was like, this makes no sense. This is dumb. The story's like not great. Like he had, because I get so excited. I don't know about you. Like sometimes I read like the premise of the story, like the little brief summary. I'm like, this is so interesting. They could do so many really cool things with it, and then they just like flopped it. Like they have all these tropes like left and right, and it just kind of makes it lame.
Great idea, terrible execution. Unable to do the whole flip, tumble, tumble, flip. Instead, they do the run and then just start trip falling and then like somehow die, resuscitate, and die again.
And that's the end of the anime or the manhwa. Like, because yeah,
Or mainly my attention span.
that too. But it's because like, yeah, like the storyline isn't great. Like there are certain times where, like, for me, I don't know about you, and I guess it's a good question to go into because we talked about like what kind of isekais that we tend to like watch or read, and I like tend to read or watch more like romance, like historical things, and you like more like action adventure kind of things. But does it matter like the art style of the person, or are you just kind of like, oh, don't really pay attention to the art style, or that you just continue like it's more about the story? Because sometimes for me it's more, if I don't really like the art style, it's gonna be really hard for me to get into the story, even if it's like a really good story.
There is a blemish over my nerddom anime watching career, okay? And that blemish being that I put off watching Soul Eater for a very long time because I did not like how they animated or they drew the noses, because they're kind of like pushed upwards and then you can kind of see they're done in a weird angle, and obviously it's a unique art style, but at the time I put it off because it bothered me. And that is my dark secret.
Okay. Wait, now I have to Google it. I haven't seen Soul Eater, so I don't know.
Now, while you do that, I'll say that nowadays a lot of the isekai that I do read is copy and paste. You will not be able to tell whose work is who. Sometimes the art is really, really good, highly detailed, very much stylized. Other times you can't. There's a lot of detail missing, and you're like, how did this make it at all? How does it have like 15 to 20 chapters?
That's a really good point because part of the, I mean, I did say that I like for the past few months I've just been binge reading a bunch of manhwas. Can I tell you what like three specific ones that I've read? Probably not. I don't really remember much of what I read. I don't remember the titles because there was a couple that were like, oh yeah, that's a good one. But as soon as I finished it, I was like, oh, on to the next one, and I completely forgot about them.
How much how much of that is ADHD brain versus how much of that is just the story was was told in such neutrality that you really didn't remember much of it?
That's a good point. I mean, but I think I was just trying to speak to the point that you said that a lot of them are just kind of copy and paste. And I think a lot of the ones that I read, I would say like probably 95% of the ones that I read were very similar like that. They had like just a little change. And I think maybe that's why I like them, because there's times in my life where like if my life is very stressful, I would like to sit there and read something that is not like very intricate, not very like detail oriented or whatever, like just something that's kind of like fun. I think a lot of like animated like isekais are kind of like that, like just something to have in the background, something to watch as like you're having your lunch, but it's not something that is gonna like completely change your mind on like anime, or like it's gonna get you into like animation or like some kind of animation career. It's not really gonna be like that. It's just kind of like something that's there for you to read or watch in between like two really great like creations.
It's the junk food of anime.
Oh my gosh, that's such a good way to put it.
It is the craving that you get. It's like, I want this genre right now, and I'm not very picky. But like once you taste that really good genre, or like that really good trope or way of storytelling, you either look up the author or start looking for stories that are very similar to it.
That's actually a good point. That's kind of like segueing into the other thing that I wanted to talk about, because um I have seen most of these, I think, but for my count, and also I don't remember much. One of them, David had to like legitly like spoon feed me the plot of one of them because I totally forgot I watched it. We watched it together, and I was like, "Have you seen this one? Did you know what it is?" Because I don't remember anything. Anyway, but there's like four isekai animes that we think are really really good, and those are the ones that sort of like changed my outlook on isekais, because I wasn't into isekais until we watched together um the anime that time I got reincarnated as a slime. After I watched that one, I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And then that's when I started reading more isekais, like chasing that high of that one.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of politically charged, well, not politically charged, but a lot of more political style isekais, where now isekais started being, instead of just a genre, it almost feels like a medium where you can tell other type of stories, but you have a main character that you can attach to more, uh, a little bit easier because they are modern day person, you know?
I think it's like an easier way to resolve the whatever issue is part of the plot, because you can just say, oh, well, they're from a different world, so they just automatically know these skills, right? It's just kind of like an easy save, I guess, which is kind of like sad. Like, it's a really interesting sort of like angle, but a lot of the times, like you were saying, like it just kind of like copied and paste, and they just use those things to like promote the stories. But like, for example, that one time I got reincarnated as a slime, if you haven't seen it, it's a really cool anime where like this person, he was like a man like in his 30s, maybe late 30s or something, and he was like a manager, and he died trying to save one of his like coworkers, and he got reincarnated like a legit. I avoided this one because he got reincarnated as a slime, like this little slime bubble looking thing, and I was like, that is such a dumb premise. And then David was like, no, it's good. And then I was like, for years I was like, no, that's dumb. And then for some reason I was like, yeah, let's watch it, and it was so good. It was like it is really good because it goes through the whole sort of creating a new world out of scratch, and he references like his previous world all the time in this one, because he's like, oh, so back when I was like a manager, I learned this, so I'm gonna implement it into this world, like I'm gonna teach my friends about this one thing. And then like, yeah, he's like completely OP, but that's like by chance, like by him being like a nice person.
Not only that, they do end up explaining why he has the ability to just have a really, really good memory. It turns out like when he got reincarnated and he started getting like a lot of powers and power, he was able to essentially access his memory as if it was perfect because of one of his skills. That was I can't remember the name, but it was like his wisdom, great sage skill, I believe.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Because of great sage, he was able to literally go through his memories and watch it as if it was like a video or something like that.
So basically, he has like Google installed in his brain, because he can just, because sometimes he's like, wait, do you know what this is? And then like a computer robotic voice would tell him, but that's like his power to be able to do that. Yeah, so like after I watched this one, it was like so good that I continued to looking for more, and I just had a bunch of junk isekais for a long time, and there was like a handful where like the person got, you know, what is it called? Like somebody did something wrong, or they were wrong in some way, and then they go back in time, usually to their own life, but like when they were younger, or like a few years before whatever incident happened, and then they were able to like rewrite history. And a lot of those are very okay. So now this is the part of the podcast where I start geeking out about mental health, and then because like part of the reason why I really like reading those like junkie isekais is because they give you get a second chance to redo your life. If you make a major mistake, like you were like totally rude to people your whole life, and then at the end of your life, like right before you die, you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. You get a chance, like you go back in time and you get to prevent that from happening. And like, wouldn't that be great, like in your life, like to be able to get like that second chance, to be able to just rewrite or life story or like a major event that happened in our life.
I'm totally of two opinions in this. The first one being, oh, absolutely. I would love to go back, have like the knowledge that I do now, and be able to essentially, take care of myself way better than what I do now and take care of the people around me and basically help my friends when before they need the help. Um, but the other part of my mind, or like the other part of my opinion, is basically, but if I do that, it would change the future. I cannot perfectly copy the my memories because obviously I have ADHD and it's kind of hard for me to recall certain key moments in my life. But knowing, obviously having that, keeping that in mind, I'm not able to just do what I did then, but slightly better. Because not everything is going to fall exactly into place. And, like, following the rules of the butterfly effect. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a double-edged sword where like it could be really great, but also it could like completely mess things up.
In
And
the
like
future.
there are some like good isekais that kind of had that concept of mm, like, okay, so you went back, you tried to change, and like that changed everything else. So now you have to deal with like 3,000 other problems that arose because you tried to change, the storyline or whatever. But also, yeah, they're very heartwarming. Where like the whole point of them is just to make you feel good and like restore your faith in humanity, because people are just kind, like to everyone or to everything. Like if you get isekai to another world, everyone you meet or everyone around you is like super helpful and trying to help you in everything that you do. And if you make mistakes, they're like super good to you. Like it's kind of like very idealistic version of what we would want our world to be like. At least me, I would like the
It's
world like
very
that.
much for some of these, kind of like I think one of the ones that you wrote down here, by the grace of gods, or by the grace of the gods, or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, that one, he basically goes throughout his life basically being a pushover and working for a very, very bad company. Overworked, he didn't really have that much time to be with family or do anything that he wanted to do. So instead, he's just like a cogwheel part of the machine. And then he gets isekai'd, and he is able to essentially express himself from, you know, from what he used to be and what have you. This also, I think this also is a fantasy that is very popular in Japan, mainly because of how their society is. They're like, it's such a workaholic society where they praise people who literally give up their lives in order to work.
Yeah, I read there's articles and stuff where like people get praised like if they fall asleep at the work, because that shows that you've been working so hard that you just kind of like fall asleep at work because you've been there for like days or whatever, or you're working extra long hours, which is not good. I mean, there's a lot of studies out there too that show that like a 4 day week is better. Like working 4 days over the week for like 6 hours is a lot better for like your mental health, and it helps creativity and helps you like actually want to go back to work, which is in the end at the end of the line, or like the point of it is that the company that you work for is going to make a lot of money because you're more creative, you're doing a better job, as opposed to just making you work a lot of hours with like very little pay, and like you're just completely exhausted all the time. You're just doing sort of like average mediocre work all the time because you're exhausted. And so one of the things that I really liked about that's the one that David had to remind me that we watched it together. I totally forgot. Yeah, but one of the things I did like about that anime is that he didn't automatically start seeking other people. He like little by little started like making friends because he kind of like when he got isekai'd to a child that was like 7 or something like that. And so he just kind of lived in like the forest by himself with like a bunch of slimes
2 years, 1 year.
for like 2 years, I think, because he was like 9 or 10 when like somebody discovered him. And then like he couldn't really talk very well because he hadn't really communicated with anyone when he was isekai'd. And yeah, so like it kind of becomes like a part of him, and then eventually he realizes that he has so many people that have supported him and that care about him, which he didn't really have, I guess, in his previous life, and he wants to do better in this life. So yeah, that one's a really good isekai that we saw. Yeah, so like I mean that was one of the ones that I was talking about where like very heartwarming, where like everyone around him was like trying to help him, right? And then so like that returns my faith in humanity. Like just watching it makes me feel better. It makes me like, people are good, because sometimes some people are not having a good day, so they're rude to you. So then your already bad day makes like they make it even worse, or like it's just one thing piled up in other little things that went wrong that day, and then you just come home, you're exhausted, and then you watch this really heartwarming story about a person who's surrounded by a lot of people who are really kind and lovely. And yeah, it makes me feel so much better. That is what we like to call hashtag anime therapy.
Like the reason why a lot of these isekais are very popular, even if they're just not good in general, or like, you know,
Copy and paste.
yeah, copied and paste, is because of the whole power trip fantasy. That, or like some sort of fantasy that they manage to pull semi well or well enough that your curiosity is piqued. It's like, I don't care about the story or the people, but the world is really interesting, you know?
Yeah, that's true. I agree. I think for me, it's more that having that power to change your life. That's what I really like. Because some of the like isekais manhwas that I come, like sometimes I read something really cool or funny, and then I just run to the other room wherever David is. And then I'm like, listen, I've been reading, and then like I just like blurb whatever it is that I'm reading, because it just, this idea of being able to like have control of your own life and have the power to be able to make the change that's necessary for you to have a better life, or that also, like, most of the time that change, like once you change for a better life, so does everyone around you. And like being able to do that, it just, I geek out over that so much, because that's exactly why I became a therapist, because I want to help other people, and because I believe that if I help other people, they're gonna help other people, and that world is just gonna become better. Like, I that is what I hope to be able to do. So like, it just, I'm like, yes, this is why I'm working for very little pay and studying for so many years, because I want to be able to do something like this, like in this isekai. So it just being able to have that power, because nowadays, like especially as adults, I feel like, well, even as kids, like we don't really, like as a child, you don't really have the money or the resources or like the knowledge to be able to like be in control of your own life, right? Like everything gets for the most part, everything gets decided for you by your parents or by whoever is your caretaker. And you have no control over your environment. And as an adult, it becomes like that as well, because either you go into like corporate America, or like like whatever job you decide to do, and like bills and family and other things like kind of take priority, like really survival takes priority over anything else, so you don't have control over any of that. So that's why I like watching this, because then it makes me feel like I could potentially have control over my life if I got isekai, but it just makes me feel better, and then I can go back to my life, my real life.
If I had the power of ADHD but better, oh my god, that would be so cool.
What do you mean?
Well, ADHD is already, a faster thinking. You notice everything like all the time, right? And the problem with it is that our brain isn't fast enough to, or it doesn't have essentially the RAM to keep up with all of this information. But if you did, and you had the memory space for it as well, the amount of things you'd be able to analyze and figure out would be astronomical.
I mean, we would be so OP. We would just be overpowered left and right if we were able to do that. Oh, you know what? That kind of reminds me. For some reason, I think of Psych. Oh, that is so old. Okay, so for in my head, Psych is something that I grew up with, and it was really good. I was talking about that show. I think it was like one on ABC or something. It's just called Psych, like that detective who's supposed to be psychic but is not. He just notices like little details and he passes it off as being psychic because he doesn't actually want to like become a detective. He just wants to have fun and I don't know, solve crimes but not go through all the work that detectives have to do. Yeah, so that it reminds me of that, like what you were saying. But it's such an old show because like I was rewatching it like 2 years ago or something, and then I realized I was like, oh, they still have flip phones, dude. Like it was back in the day where like flip phones were like cool. Yeah. Anyway, I mean that's why I like watching isekais or reading them because it just makes me feel better. Is there like another like anime out there or like a genre that gives you that sense of like, okay, yeah, I feel better now about my life. I can go back and continue grinding for a little bit longer.
One Piece.
I walked into that one. I just in the previous episode we filmed, he just kept like putting in things that like were One Piece, and now I'm like, no, I'm gonna prevent him. I'm gonna prevent him from doing that. And I freaking walked into it. I just
You basically opened the door and were like, here, invite yourself, I guess. Talk about One Piece. That is honestly the one show where I'm able to literally pick an arc and just enjoy it for what it is because of how it's written, right? Every island is completely different from each other, and and it's basically like a mini isekai. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, you remember when we were talking about like that isekai world? I don't remember.
Oh, the same characters.
Yeah, I mean that's actually a good premise. And so David explained the story of One Piece to me a while back, and actually the creator Oda gave himself like so much room for creativity and for the story to keep going and going and without becoming like old or like too stretched out. Because you know how Naruto had so many fillers because like the anime or like the manga couldn't keep up with the anime like as they were releasing it or whatever, and it just kind of became boring after a while. And there's like lists out there like where you like just avoid all the fillers, like they're not necessary for the story. In One Piece, like I feel like he kind of avoided that because you said like every island is like completely different setting, so he can play around like with like he gives so much creativity and he can just do whatever he wants, and it makes sense because it's a different island because he already set the premise for the story to make it like that. So yeah, that's really cool. One of the things that you said now, and I kind of ignore everything else because my ADHD brain picked that one thing that I was like, oh yeah. You said that you could go back and reread some of it, and then I'm like, yeah, I think that's part of the reason why I kind of like watching those like trashy like isekais because they're the same, so there's not a lot of like surprises for me because I've read so many. I know what the storyline is gonna be like. I know there's like nothing, so like it makes me sort of like calm down a little, like especially when I'm like very anxious about something. That kind of brings me down because I know what expectations to have, and they're gonna be met, right? And I feel like when you go back and rewatch or reread something that you absolutely love, you kind of get transported into like a happier, better time and remember all the little details, and you're able to pick up like extra details or notice little things that you didn't pick up the first time. But yeah.
Or if you do what I do and just watch a bunch of retrospectives of like each and every arc, you can go back and read it and notice all the things that they're pointing out. And you're like, cool, it's a scavenger hunt now.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, that's part of the reason why I wanted to do the podcast episodes where we rewatch Avatar, because like I've seen it so many times. I haven't kept track of how many times I've seen it, but I think last year I watched it like the whole like everything from start to finish. I watched it like twice in the year, but I was so like it's something that I love so much that even if I've seen it so many times, I still laugh. It's still funny to me, you know? And yeah, so it just makes me, I don't it makes me feel so good inside. So that's why this is me trying to like make everyone like geek out and encourage everyone to geek out, because it works. It's good for your mental health. So even if you are like rewatching something for like millionth time, that's okay, because it's so good for your mental health. Just do it.
Also, right now she's airboxing, and I am afraid for my life.
Just speaking with my hands. um yeah, I mean, I had a lot of points that I wanted to like hit today, and we basically like just talk about them. um so one of the things that I kind of haven't really like follow up. You know how we said that a lot of times, or I guess 50% chance, when you get isekai, you get isekai as a child or like as a newborn, or whatever. So you have a chance to relive your childhood. One of the reasons why I really like watching isekais, especially like after I watched the one time I got reincarnated as a slime ball, was because he had a chance to create a better world. Like he could start from scratch, right? And he organized sort of like a society, because he eventually becomes kind of like a king with like a bunch of people under his rule. Not He didn't try to, he didn't mean to, but he was just like that OP. And he just wanted to help people, and people were like, hey, you're really good, we want you to be your leader. Like he was chosen, but he was able to like sort of like structure everything. And that's what I like, because I think having that opportunity to be able to go back and sort of rewrite our childhood, for a lot of us, I think that would be just a complete like 180 when it comes to sort of like our mental health. And even though like realistically we're not able to go back in time and like fix our childhood, but we can, through the magic of therapy, rewrite how we think about our childhood, and then so we feel better. Are you wanting to say something, or are you just fixing the mic?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. But what I did wanted to say, harking back to the point of the one time I got reincarnated as a slime. Yes, we do have to say the entire name, just because. Okay, we're contractually obligated to do so. But back to that. What he ended up doing is, yeah, sure, opportunities presented themselves to him, but he was wise enough to figure out, hey, if I don't take this right now, I will lose this chance and I will never know if I'll get another one. Unlike here today, where we are approached by a chance, but it may be way too risky and we may not have the ability to do so. But in an isekai, we can take that chance. We can figure it out as we go along, or we can just make the most of it, of like that opportunity that here we can't really take full advantage of.
That's the truth. So um I have to explain things sometimes with a story, because I don't know how to do it any other way. This is just the way I communicate. But so I really like what you said, because I kind of like learned that in my personal life, like just in the past few years, where there were so many opportunities that I was kind of like, yes, this is a really good opportunity, but I was so afraid of letting go of like my current situation that I didn't want to make that jump. For something new, because it was not everything was sort of like set in stone, and things could go wrong. And then so isekais are kind of like what you were saying, David, are kind of like this thing where like you can take an opportunity to do something, but you're not going to personally lose anything, because it's an animation, it's just a book, right? But if it goes well, then that's so good for you. If it doesn't go well and it gets really cringy or whatever, then you can just turn it off and go on back to your life, right? But yeah, but just I guess I just want to encourage everyone to be on the lookout for those opportunities, because you said like that sometimes we don't want to like take those opportunities, and we just let them pass by, and sometimes we don't even pay attention because we're so busy trying to meet all of society's standards that we miss those really good opportunities, because you're trying to be like the best worker, or you were overworking, or we're trying to be a really good parent and a good worker, and a good husband or a good wife. Like you're just trying to do everything all at once, and that's really hard. It's impossible. You can't do that. So yeah, just take your time and just be yourself. That's the best thing that you can do. And I'm just gonna go into the therapy mode. So David, say something, because otherwise I'm just gonna like continue rambling on about mental health.
What's up, Shiggy Diggy? It's your boy, this guy. How's it going?
Wait, let's talk about the other. So we talk about like that one time I got reincarnated as a slime, and by the grace of the gods. But we also have to talk about Ascendance of a Bookworm, because she is a bookworm, and her whole point in life is to become a librarian. So she wants to educate everyone, so she just she can take
This
her
one's
books.
not fair because I haven't seen it.
Oh, I don't care.
I don't know anything about it. And besides, she's a nerd.
That's all you need to know. But you haven't seen it. It's basically like it's just another really good isekai that has a really good premise. And I am a book nerd, so it just spoke to me a lot more than all the other ones spoke to me. Yeah, so I really liked it. But one thing that I really liked about this one, and I made a whole like post on social media about this, is that you need to have a goal for yourself. If you don't have a clear goal of what you want to do or what makes you happy, it's really hard to do anything. And that's why we get caught up in sort of like life or like everyone's expectations, because we don't have a clear goal of what we want to do, or we're not working towards that goal. So this girl, like, she got reincarnated into I don't know, she's a 6-year-old girl, I think. And so she always wanted to be, before she died, she was hired as a librarian, and that was her like dream job. But then she ended up dying, so she couldn't make that happen. And like one of her best quotes was like, if I only have books, I can like put up with anything, I can do anything in any world, it doesn't matter where I am. That's not a like word by word quote. I don't know, that's kind of what it sounded like. But that's so true. Like, if you have something that you're really passionate about, even if you don't make that your career, like, it can make life so much easier and better. Like, for example, like when you watch anime, or when you read manga or play video games, if that makes life fun for you, do it. Do it. Make time for it. Especially in those times where you're really busy, that's exactly when you need to make more time for it. That's something that I have to remind myself to do, because sometimes I feel bad. Like, do you ever feel bad for like playing around, or like not being as productive as you should be as an adult?
All the time. But like at this point, I've learned that one, the modern world sucks. Two, our politicians are idiots. And three, what's the point if I can't have fun, or if I cannot enjoy the little things?
Yeah, and like that's kind of like basically the premise of Ascendance of a Bookworm. Like, she said, like, if I can't accomplish my dream, then there is no point in me being alive. And then so she has this thing, like this sickness or whatever, that she can only control by being like really focused on like a goal. And then so she makes that her like sort of life mission to like learn how to read. And this is when like it does have some of the tropes, like the dumb tropes that we talked about earlier, because for some reason she just knows how to make paper and like clay tablets and all that stuff. Because apparently that was a hobby of hers when she was like in the other world. Yeah, but it's really good. So yeah, anyway, so like, yeah, having a goal is good. And then so that's why I really like that one. I know you have seen Mushoku Tensei. That is another isekai that's really, really good. I just haven't finished watching it because it's not really my cup of tea. Do you want to talk more about like why that's a really good isekai, or like why you recommend it to others?
Mushoku Tensei is the one of the older isekais that kind of like introduced these cool new concepts to the genre. Again, isekai has always been a genre for like a very long time, i.e., the very first Digimon you've ever seen. But they've introduced a lot of the genres where they die and reincarnate. They do a bunch of stereotypical things of, oh, I know physics, therefore I'm able to learn magic and use it at a higher skill than literally anyone in this world. So he kind of does that. He travels through his entire life. Again, this is the story of one person's entire life, from childhood till adult death, where he dies of old age or because of something or other. throughout like his entire life, he essentially is trying to figure out himself, the world, and the reason why this creature, godlike being, isekai'd him to begin with. Because he does talk to him every once in a while, and there is plot with that. Other isekais kind of like ignore this or just chuck it up to, oh, I'm a whimsical god. I felt like doing this, so I did. Literally no other ulterior motive. Or we're doing this because we feel like it. In this one, it's more personal because they did it for a reason, and a reason could be malicious, but they're not really explaining anything. So as you go through the story, you start uncovering bits and bits and bits of what is actually going on, so on and so forth.
One of the things, because I have seen like I don't know, like 10 episodes or something like that of this one, and I agree it's a really good isekai. So a lot of like the problem things that we were talking about, they kind of get explained, or they're not like those tropes, like those dumb tropes that make it into like a bad movie. What am I saying? A bad story. But one of the things that I really liked is that the fact that his personality gets addressed. Like all the issues that he had in his previous life, they don't just magically disappear like with most other isekais. Like he does go through a period of time, because I think when he was in the real world, or I guess, or in his original world, he was afraid of going outside, right? Of leaving his home. And then so when he got isekai'd, he was fine because most of his childhood he was little, so his parents never like really took him anywhere. But when he needed to leave his home, like he was struggling. Like it wasn't something that just got dismissed or like forgotten about because he's in a new world. Like it got addressed. So I really like it when they do that, where they continue like the storyline. They just kind of like never discuss those things again because I don't know what to do with it in the story to make it cool.
Yeah, that's how you typically write a character. And like we've previously mentioned, a lot of these isekais tend not to have a lot of continuity with their characters or their story. And that's very disappointing sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I really like, again, that one time I got reincarnated as a slime ball. That was like really good. No ball. Slime. A slime. Slime ball. He's a slime. He's really cute though when he's a slime ball. Yeah. Wait, what was I saying? Oh yeah, but the Curse of the Gods also has that a very similar premise where like things do get addressed, kind of. Um. Yeah. I mean, one of the other things that, because I could just keep going back to like the reason why I really like watching or reading isekais is because it makes me feel better. Like even if it's like a trashy isekai, it still feel good because it's all about the friends we make along the way most of the time, and like as an adult, it's really hard to find a time where everyone's schedules work out so you can meet with your friends, so I don't know, friendship. I get like
Something, something friendship. Something, something complete.
I have no idea what that is.
It's a reference of the one time Family Guy did a parody of Star Wars. It was Palpatine going something, something dark side, something, something complete. But I put it friendship instead of dark side.
I feel really old. Like
You are. You're like, what, 31? 40? Almost 50. You're in your twilight years. How's it going, Grandma?
Wow. Please, somebody come and save me. This is what I have to deal with every day. They keep calling me a señora, which I guess translation it kind of means like an old person.
Mature woman. Okay, it's a more mature woman. It's basically saying ma'am.
Yeah, but that's weird. I don't want to be addressed as ma'am.
Okay, señora.
No, or señora. I don't want to be a señora. I'm cool and hip. You know that meme of
You
the guy
almost
who's
broke
like,
your hip the other day. What are you talking about?
I did not win.
No, weren't you like just sitting there and you're like almost dying?
Okay, my body does hurt if I'm in the same position continuously and I don't stretch. But whatever, that's not the point. I'm not a señora. Yeah, anyway, point being is watch isekais because they make you feel good. And there's like so many different genres too that you'll probably find one that you really like. um I have other things that I have here how isekai sort of can help your mental health or whatever, because again, I do my profession is a therapist, and I really like incorporating, like, my hobbies or every other people's hobbies into the therapy session, because it just makes it better. Like, it's a lot easier for us to talk about things that you like and you're comfortable with, and like bring those lessons into like sort of like our real life. And like we were saying earlier, like going through somebody else's life story where they are able to fix their childhood or like correct a mistake that they made, it's like really good because it doesn't have anything to do with us, but it feels good. Like if the character succeeds, we're like, yeah. If they don't, and everything turns out to be super cringe and way worse, we're like turned off, and it doesn't really affect me anymore, kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, like a lot of like these things are like just like friendship is very, again, like I said, I'm just gonna like the whole time is just me saying how heartwarming it is for these isekais, and again having that opportunity to like try again, and yeah, like having, I don't know, I'll save the things for like a post or something, because like I feel like I'm boring people now and just talking about mental health, but I'm gonna go into like therapist mode. Anyway, back to isekais. David, help me.
Yes, I am here to make this fun.
Do it again.
No, I got it.
Oh, you got it? Okay. I got nothing. I think we just, geeked out about isekais, things that we like. I think our mistake, David, was like discussing this episode before we started recording. So all the cool and funny bits, we did them earlier. And I don't know if any of this episode made sense.
Listen, that sounds more like a you problem than it does a me problem. You know what I'm saying?
No. We're both doing this podcast. It's a you problem
We're
too.
all in this together.
So watch isekais, and the lesson to be learned is it's all about the friends we made along the way.
No, the lesson to be learned is if you ain't rich, white, and somehow always male, you're not making it. I'm sorry.
You're just reading those, David, because most of the protagonists in the ones that I read were female.
Well, that's because that's the self-insert. If you're not rich, white, and or male or female, is that better? Because none of them are non-white.
Oh, but yeah, don't forget, like, you kind of also have to be beautiful.
I mean, that's debatable. Some would say one man's trash is another man's treasure. Others would say, what are you talking about? This is a Denny's.
Okay, so we're gonna end that on that note because neither of us can think of anything else to say. But if you are a fan of isekais, just like us, let us know if there are any other good isekais out there. Because again, like we could only think of like really 4 good ones. Also, manhwas, I take in recommendations for that. I really love, like I said, romance, historical. I really like that. Anything that has like fantastical or magic, I like that as well. Yeah, and like just tell us about like your experiences, like whether or not isekais are your thing. Like, did we change your mind? Did we completely change your life and now you are willing to give isekais a chance? If that is the case, please let us know in the comments.
If that's the case, start with that one time I got reincarnated as a slime, Mushoku Tensei, or just watch Digimon.
No. Or just watch Sentence of a Bookworm. That's really good. Yes, watch that one.
Is that all you have? Is that all you have? What about the countless others that you have read? Out of all the ones that I have read, these are the ones that are perfect for starters. What about you? Huh? What about you?
My brain doesn't retain all of that. I just read a bunch of like trashy isekais that I can't really remember anything of. Shut up, David, leave me alone. I can't remember any names. Yeah, but those are really good ones to watch, the ones that he mentioned. Mushoku Tensei is just not something that I vibe with, so I kind of like stopped watching it. I kind of lost interest after a while. But it might be your cup of tea. Just give it a try. Yeah, so with that being said, thank you so much for joining us today, and follow me on social media to figure out what the next episode of A Pinch of Everything is gonna be, because I don't know what it's gonna be like, and we will find out together once I post it. Yeah, so check it out. I am you can find me on Facebook or Instagram at Psych for Geeks, and David has completely ignored me now because now he's petting both dogs who are totally spoiled. But yeah, watch isekais. Spend time with your family, doing your hobbies, teaching your kids how to, enjoy the hobbies that you love, because it's good for your mental health and their mental health. And yeah, and don't forget to reframe and re-enchant your life.